Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Network Africa, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. We're still taking you through major headlines in the continent. Kenya is not the only East African country embroiled in civil protests. In the eastern suburb of Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, taxi drivers are protesting what they describe as increased police roadblocks in the city. And this is causing hundreds of city-bound commuters to be stranded. Police have used tear gas to deal with these protesting taxi and minibus drivers, angry at what they, of course, have described harassment by the police. The drivers blocked roads into the city, forcing many people to walk to work. And while some of these East African countries appear embroiled in crisis, they are still attracting the much-needed intervention funds to help strengthen their economy and diplomatic ties. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced aid to EAC countries, that's the East African countries, during his visit to Uganda today. Uganda is one of the 4 countries he's billed to visit as part of his Africa tour. The Prime Minister tweeted today he will be in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda and Ethiopia. He will also be hosting 6 other heads of state in the country. Now let's bring you to the importance of this visit by President Netanyahu. It is deemed quite personal and, of course, to herald Israel's return to Africa. Well, people believe that the death of his brother, who commanded Israel's hostage rescue mission at Entebbe, changed the course of Benjamin Netanyahu's life and set him on a trajectory that was ultimately to make him his country's prime minister. Now, hostage rescued during the raid on the Ugandan airport of Entebbe is transferred onto a stretcher by Israeli soldiers in 1976. But this is much more than a personal pilgrimage or the commemoration of a bold military operation. Mr. Netanyahu's swing through Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and Ethiopia is believed to be intended to mark Israel's return to Africa. Let's move on to other stories now. The self-styled terrorist group, Niger Delta Avengers, notorious for carrying out attacks on Nigerian oil facilities in the past few months, has claimed responsibility for 5 new attacks in the region on Sunday. Petroleum Ministry sources said in late June that a month-long truce had been agreed with militants, but the Avengers claim they could not remember agreeing to a ceasefire. Attacks in the Niger Delta have pushed Nigerian crude production to 30-year lows, although the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation said last week that output was rising because of repairs and a fall-off in attacks. Now, in messages posted on Twitter in the early hours of Sunday, the Avengers said they had attacked a pipeline connected to the Warri refinery operated by NNPC on Friday night. They added that they blew up 2 lines on Saturday night close to Baton Flow Station in Delta State run by MPDC. The militants also said 2 Chevron facilities close to Abitea Flow Station in Delta State came under attack early on Sunday. The Director General of the NIMASA, Petrosai Dakuku, has been making clarifications on the proposed national shipping line. Mr. Dakuku says the national carrier will be managed on a PPP as a public-private partnership, basics, with funding coming from the private sector. He goes ahead also to state that Nigeria has signed to several protocols that will help detect and get rid and punish pirates and security breaches on the waterways.
The national shipping line we used to have and the one proposed. The one distinguishing feature is that the old national shipping line was owned by government, driven by government, and managed as a government entity. That's one. Whereas the proposed one is to be owned by Nigerian ship owners or individuals, managed by individuals. That's one distinguishing feature of between the old shipping line and the new shipping line. Now, the second one is that the old shipping line was not a product of rigorous thinking the way we currently have. Now, what has been done is that there's been feasibility going on. There's been a lot of planning pursuant to the establishment of the national shipping line. The third core distinguishing feature is that there's going to be a core investor who has the capacity and capability, who's got a track record of excelling in running ships. That wasn't there. in the old shipping line. The old shipping line, it was given to individuals who had never really managed a ship before. They may have piloted a ship, they may have captained a ship, they may have taken a ship from one point to the other. It's not the same thing as managing a ship. Managing a ship requires a different level of competency and skill, different from taking a ship from one point to the other. You can be a marine engineer, you can be a nautical engineer. It doesn't make you a good manager of ship, a good entrepreneur. That entrepreneurial skill is a different skill from technical skill of moving a vessel from one point to the other. All of those things have been factored in now in the new proposed shipping line, and that would distinguish you from the old shipping line. I believe that this one will succeed.
Wife of the President, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, in collaboration with the Nasarawa state government, have distributed food items worth millions of naira to the physically challenged, underprivileged, orphans and women who are mostly widows, that is. The distribution, which took place at the Lafia Square in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, is part of their efforts to ameliorate the plight of the underprivileged classes of the state.
The physically challenged, orphans, the less privileged, and women who are mostly widows at the Lafia Square in Nasarawa state. They are here to receive food items from the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, in the spirit of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr. Governor Tanko Al-Makura, who represented the wife of the president, tells them the objective of the distribution.
Aisha Muhammad Buhari, who has been thinking about Nigerian women and other people who have challenges, especially at this very difficult time, to see what she could do to support the well-being of the entire citizenry of this country.
For the beneficiaries, the items have come at the right time.
I'm very happy because this time there is people, they are very sober. Because people, they are doing fasting, not in where you go, for example, evening, not a person will get to eat. So Salah is coming, nothing to eat. As this food weather and contributing, we people we are very happy.
I want to appreciate our governor for taking his time to come and see that he shared these items by himself. To appreciate Aisha, our mother of the nation, Aisha Buhari, for her great gesture towards the women.
It's a good gesture because I can see persons with disabilities with joy. They are just smiling, chatting merrily because of this occasion.
Rwanda is turning on the light using methane gas, which can bubble up from the lake bed, into a lifeline by generating electricity to help businesses expand and light up a nation with a chronic power shortage. Across Africa, governments are struggling to increase power capacity and expand grids to meet the demands of growing populations with rising aspirations.
Rwanda is set to increase its electricity output through the recently launched Kivuwatt, which uses methane gas from Lake Kivu. Kivuwatt, which started operations in May, is part of a network of projects aimed at providing 70% of the 11 million population with power from the grid or off-grid by 2018, up from 25% now. Much will come from renewable sources. Lake Kivu's methane has been added to the list of its emerging resources formed from biogas created by decomposing matter on the bed of the lake, but is trapped by a layer of mineral-rich water flowing off nearby volcanic soil. Based on studies, officials say that unless the methane is reduced in a controlled manner via extraction or being used to generate power, it risks building up to a level that will lead to the release of toxic gases and possibly an explosion.
The gas extraction facility is very unique because there's no other lake in the world with this kind of methane in the lake, so it's never been in the industrial scale. But also the power plant, which is basically very basic, ordinary Wärtsilä power plant, but now instead of natural gas, we are using methane gas.
Let's take a break on Network Africa. When we come back, human remains recovered from the crash site of Egypt Air Flight MS-804 in the Mediterranean by search vessels. We have details in just a moment.